Hello. If you're here, maybe you want to learn how to make a website. That's cool. My name's Eli. I've been making websites for a long time, but professionally I've been doing it or some variation on it since 2013. And I like it a lot. It is the thing I am the best at, and I get asked sometimes, how can I do this? How can I make a website? How can I be a fancy pantsy professional software engineer? And specifically, I get asked a lot, how do I get started? What's the first thing I should? What should I read? What should I look at? What should I do? It's a really hard question to answer, or at least I don't. There's like a lot of boot camps out there. And they're pretty okay, I guess. I taught at one of them for a while, and the curriculum was fine. I think mostly, though, it's that what was most helpful is that it paired you with a mentor, and you met with them 3 times a week, and they helped you get over any hurdles you run into. There's about 10,000 little things that go wrong between wanting to make a website and making a website. And so it's really hard to get started without that kind of framework. And so what I'm hoping to do here is make a little video series and do a little live streaming show where we start from nothing. What I have in front of me here is a completely fresh installation of Ubuntu 18.04. Absolutely, it finished earlier today. Absolutely nothing else. And we're going to go from there to cover websites, cover JavaScript, and by the end of this series, whenever that is, we'll have gone over everything we need to be a professional full stack JavaScript engineer, which is what I am, or what I was until recently. And that will include, obviously, I'll talk about the actual code itself, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, or what we'll be covering specifically, but I think more importantly, what I'm going for in this particular series is that we'll also be setting up our development environment from scratch. We'll be installing, you can watch me on stream or on the VODs, install every little piece of software necessary. We're going to get our development environment set up just right. I think that's something that a lot of curriculums neglect, is that over time you sort of build up the tools you like to use, and all the different programs, literally dozens and dozens of programs that you'll have installed in order to get everything working properly. And all of that is just so you've got an okay workspace that you can now, if you want to make your website, you can start to put things together. So yeah, that's what we're going to cover. Like I said, by the end of it, we'll be full stack JavaScript engineers, which means we can write code that lives on a server, write code that runs in a web browser, like the code that's powering this slime volleyball game that I'm playing right now. And that's actually all you need to make anything, really. Maybe we'll cover React Native, talk about how we can use this to make apps also. But yeah, there's like all big companies that are all, like PayPal's one example, that's 100% JavaScript behind the scenes. So yeah, everything you need. Well, I'll leave this slime volleyball game and we'll get started here. This is a computer. It has programs on it. This is specifically Ubuntu Bionic Beaver. You can see our nice little, oh, this window won't move. That's sad. Yeah, just click through all this and get out of there, I guess. Yeah, we're going to do this ourselves, so let's not worry about this software updater either quite yet. Yeah, this is Ubuntu 18.04 Bionic Beaver. You can tell because it's got the big beaver in the background there. I think I eventually want to make introductory videos for every operating system. In the modern era, you can run on Windows or Mac or Linux pretty effectively. But we're going to start here for a few reasons. One is that if you're completely new to programming, picking up all of that is going to be just about as hard as picking up a new operating system, and Linux is probably the best operating system for doing this kind of development. So if you're starting from scratch, you may as well start completely from scratch, and then you can sort of follow along here. It's also new to me. I also picked Linux as the development environment for this series because it's new to me. I've been a Mac, done my development on Mac OS for as long as I've been doing development, basically. So rather than, there's going to be a lot of areas where I'm going to be stuck on something too, and we're going to have to figure it out together. That will be exciting and more helpful than if I'm just, oh yeah, here's how I like to get everything set up. Here's the apps that I download and all of that. I'm going to be learning a lot of this alongside everybody else. Cool. But yeah, I do intend to make introductory videos for Windows and Mac. Also, Windows using Windows subsystem for Linux too, and Mac just doing some other things. Oh no, I don't have any DLive audio again. That's frustrating. DLive always takes a few tries to get my audio output here. When I'm editing this, I'll cut away from this part. And there we go. Okay. Recreated the DLive. If anybody was watching on DLive, you can go back and watch my intro on YouTube later. But hey, I'm Eli. We're going to be learning how to be full stack JavaScript engineers from nothing. This is a computer with nothing else on it, and we're going to install everything we need, and everything's going to be super great. Cool. So if you're following along not on Linux, I'm going to post more detailed videos for that later. But you're going to, you'll want to get the same programs that I'm installing here, more or less. You can sort of figure that out yourselves or wait for the video. So let's start on the terminal. So show applications, got a bunch of stuff here. Yeah, we're going to be doing most, the terminal is pretty central to this kind of development and pretty much every kind of development. And here it is. So you're going to want to go to applications in the corner, just type in terminal. This is GNOME terminal behind the scenes. And we'll go ahead and pin that to our, how do I pin this? Terminal has been added to your favorites. Oh, it's one of my favorites. Yeah, that's true. Cool. So welcome to Linux for those that haven't been before. This is the Linux command line. Specifically, we're in a shell here named bash. We're not going to be in this shell for too much longer because I don't care for it and I think there's better tools out there, but this is where we are to start. So the first thing you're going to want to do if you are on a fresh Linux installation, yeah, let's talk about, I didn't even realize I was typing some commands, but let me, if I can increase the size for people a little bit here. How do I, preferences? Yes, custom font. Oh yeah, we're definitely gonna do a custom font in a moment. That's very important, but yeah, let's go up to 16 for me here. Great, all right, that looks better. So let's look around a little bit. Basic commands to know on a simple command line. Let's start off with ls. List. Show me all the files in this directory. So a command line is just the same thing as clicking around files inside a graphical interface like this. You can see here's this same directory that I'm in. We've got desktop and documents and downloads and stuff, but we're just looking at them in this sort of text-only format. And if you want to list what's in your current directory, you can do ls. If you want to know what directory you're in, pwd for print working directory. So Linux directories all start at /. That's like the root of the computer. On a Windows computer, you might be more familiar with like the C drive, would be C:\\. But on Linux and Mac and everywhere else, we start out with a /, and then the directory we start in here is my home directory. So my user account's name is I am Eli, and our current directory is /home/I am Eli. Cool. Let's look around a little bit, why don't we? So if we want to change directories, that is the command cd. So if I want to, if I wanted to, go to my desktop, I could go to cd desktop, ls, and well, looks like there's nothing on my desktop. But if we want to go back, we can do cd dot. Is something you're going to see a lot. It's a special thing that means the previous directory, or rather the directory one up from where we were right now. So if we're currently at pwd home I am Eli desktop, cd dot. And now pwd we're at /home/I am Eli. Cool. Look around the system a little bit more. What else do we have here? Let's go all the way up to the root / directory here. Now we're in /, and oh, look at all this stuff. These are all different folders that make up the base of this Ubuntu Linux system that we're on right now. Yeah, we'll learn about what some of these mean later. But for now, pretty much everything we do is going to stay within our home directory. So we can go back to cd /home/I am Eli. For you, it will of course be /home/ whatever your username is. Cool. So we can list files, we can look around different directories, we can that seems useful. Let's go over some other commands that are good to know in this particular environment. So in Ubuntu, so the Linux distributions like Ubuntu and Debian and Red Hat and all of them are mostly concerned with how you install software on the computer. That's the difference between all of them is, well, there's a lot of differences, but for our purposes, what we're going to learn first is the way you install software on Ubuntu Linux, which is the command apt. You'll also see apt-get used a lot of the time, but we're going to be using apt here. So as a general rule of thumb, if you're trying to figure out how to do stuff on the command line and you don't remember exactly how it is, this is how it works. This is something that happens to me about 15,000 times a day. You're going to just maybe run the command or do apt//-help, and that will, whatever the command is, --help will usually give you some sort of help here. In this case, the first thing we're going to do is, because this is a totally fresh installation of Ubuntu Linux, the first thing we're going to do is update everything, get all of our software up to the latest and greatest versions. So if we're using there's a couple different commands we're going to use to make that happen. The first is to connect to is app update. And what that's going to do is connect to the Ubuntu servers and tell us what the latest version of all the different software is. So apt update. Uh-oh, that didn't work. It says permission denied. So if you ever see Linux systems sort of lock down what you can do as a regular user, and you're not allowed to access, like change the underlying software on the computer unless you are the root user, instead of this boring I am Eli user that we have here. So the command to make there's a command to invoke a command. There's a command to run other commands as the root user, and it's called sudo. sudo stands for super. Su is super user. Do is do something. And so same command, but we're going to go sudo apt update, and it'll prompt you for your password here. And so we can see here that we're connecting to all these us.archive.ubuntu.com. So it's refreshing its internal lists of what all of these packages are. And you can see at the end here, okay, 129 packages can be upgraded. Run apt list upgradable to see them. We don't really care what they are. We just want to have them all. So that command is sudo apt upgrade. Oh, there they are. So this is everything that is going to be upgraded when we upgrade our base system here. Yes, I would love to continue. So you'll get a little prompt like this. Do you want to continue y/n? You just type y, and away we go. Cool. Now we wait. Installing everything. So what do we see in here? Systemd just installed. That runs all the base software on the operating system. Cups. I don't know what cups is. It's probably important. Firefox. Getting a new build of Firefox. That's important. Python. LibreOffice. I don't think we're going to use that at all, but if you love Microsoft Office, there's a version of that on Linux too. Oh boy. Linux headers. That's going to be the base Linux header. I don't know what Linux headers is about. So you'll learn right away. And you'll notice something here, which is that it seems like I know what I'm doing here, but I don't know what I know what some of this stuff is, but proc ps, that sounds important. Lib Wayland, EGL, Mesa, AMD 64. Wayland's like a Windows server or something. I've like heard of some of this stuff, but like you need to understand that I've been doing this for more than forever. And I don't know what half this, updating all your PPD files, better get those updated. So a lot of doing this sort of work is knowing what to tune out. We don't need to know about all this base software and stuff. We do want to upgrade all of it, security fixes and not, but okay, cool. Great. So now we have installed bunch of software. We've updated everything. We are literally, like, as of right now, this is the very latest version of Ubuntu Linux that exists. That's very exciting. Let's make a website. So we're gonna be doing full stack JavaScript development. If you want to run JavaScript in a web browser, you run it in a web browser. That's no big deal. But if you want to run it on a server, you need something called Node.js. Let's take a look at them. Node.js. Well, it's a JavaScript runtime built on Chrome's V8 JavaScript engine. For our purposes, it means running JavaScript on a server. And for our purposes, your computer is a server, as opposed to the client, which would be Firefox or Chrome or a web browser. Server-side JavaScript runs here on a command line. Client-side JavaScript runs here in a web browser. And we're going to be doing lots of both of those in this series. But we're going to start with, yeah, we're actually going to start by installing some server-side JavaScript to set up a server so we can run some client-side JavaScript. Don't worry about it. It's going to be great. What we're going to need is Node.js. So I want to install some software on an Ubuntu Linux computer. What do? Hey, I remember there was that command apt that we used to do some stuff earlier. apt-help. Oh, hey, there's an apt search command. That sounds useful. So apt search, and the thing we're searching for, I happen to know, is called Node.js. Let's see what we get here. Node, whoa, lots of stuff. Looks like we could actually do a lot of Node things in apt. I'm just scrolling around with my scroll wheel here, but let's, after all of this is okay, yeah, it looks like there's a package called Node.js. Cool, let's get it. So sudo apt install Node.js. Sure. Great. Now we have Node. We're also going to need one more. Well, before we let's take care of that now. We're also going to need one more thing, which is going to help us out a lot, which is called npm. That's the Node package manager. npm. Node is the program that runs JavaScript code on a server, or on your computer in this case. npm is a package manager that lets you download other people's JavaScript, which is going to make your life a lot easier, because there's got to be a stat on here, right? Yeah, how much stuff is there on how big is npm? Real big. 2017, 350,000 packages. Oh my goodness, that's so much code. It's going to be very helpful to make use of other people's JavaScript code so you don't have to write your own. So let's get that too. Sudo apt install npm, the Node package manager. This is a lot of stuff. Let's see what I know in here. GCC, that's a compiler. Turns C code, compiles C code so you can run it on your computer. What else do we have? libquadmath. That's in case you got to do any quad math. Got to have and you see the lib prefix. It's for library, different library code you can use. So if you're doing Silkerts, libsilkerts 5. That's the 5th edition of libsilkerts. Yeah, I don't know what most of this stuff is. Let's scroll back down. Cool. Now we're loaded up with Node and npm. We can run all the JavaScript code we want. But first, where are we going to put our JavaScript code? Well, it'd be nice to have a directory for all of our code. You can call yours whatever you want, but I usually call mine code. So we would like to make a new directory in our home directory here for all of our code. The command for that is mkdir, make directory, make dir code, cd code. Cool. And then within your code directory, we're going to have lots and lots of different projects. So let's call this one, by ancient tradition, your very first project, very first thing you do should be called Hello World. Make dir Hello World. All right. So there's nothing here. I can ls as many times as I want. I'm noticing as I do this that ls is almost a compulsion. Like I go into a directory and I didn't mean to do this. It's just there. If your screen is full of LSs and you're a little embarrassed about them, there's a command called clear that will just clear everything in the console so far. Much better. Cool. So let's make a website. I've put it off long enough. I would like to make let's start with just a straight up website. Websites are written in HTML. This is HTML you're looking at. But first, so one last command here, which is if so we made folders with mkdir. If we want to make a file, that would be touch a file to make it exist. And this file will be called hello world.html. There we go. So I'd like to put some things in that file, but unfortunately, how am I going to do that? I'm going to need a program that lets me modify HTML files or modify any text files, actually. And the one I'm recommending is called Visual Studio Code. Code. Hey, yet another package manager. I've never used this installation method before, but the other way of installing VS Code is kind of a pain. So command code not found, but can be installed with sudo snap install code. Okay, let's do that. Oh, hey, here's a trick. So I select this and Control C. Control C actually means something else on the command line. So if you're going to copy and paste on a command line, at least on this one, what you do is you select the text and then it copies as soon as you select it, believe it or not. And then to paste the text, you right click, or middle click rather. It's been a while. So that's how you copy and paste stuff on a terminal. I'm probably going to change this later to use Control C and Control V because that's what I'm used to, but no customization yet. We're starting from nothing, and if we're going to customize something, we'll figure it out together. Of course, the command they recommended to us doesn't work. If you understand and want to proceed, repeat the command including -- classic. Okay. How do we repeat a command? Well, I could type all those words again, or I could copy paste again, but there's a trick for it. Up and down on the keyboard. You can't see what I'm doing, but I'm tapping up, 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 down, 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 down. We can go back through all of our commands we just did. Very useful. So, okay, I'll tap up and then repeat the command including -- classic. All right. Classic. Classic snap. Okay. So now that we've got Visual Studio Code installed, we have a new command, which is code, which will let us open up this text editor for us. So what we could do is code index.html, and that would open up the file for us. But what I would like to do instead is code dot. So if you remember earlier, we were doing cd ... to go to our parent directory. This would go from hello world to code, for example. Oh, here's something else. There's cd hello. If you do cd and then type some letters, and then you can hit tab to autocomplete the rest of it. If we want to go to the current directory, you do cd one dot. One dot means our current directory, dot means our parent directory, basically. So I want to open this folder in Visual Studio Code. So that'll be code dot to open up the Hello World folder in Visual Studio Code. Code dot. Mwah. Hey, editing evolved, documentation. Oh man, some history. Microsoft made a program called Visual Studio Code, and it's good for editing code. End of history. It's written in JavaScript. So one other thing you can do, I was talking about how you can use servers and clients, and you can write code in web browsers, you can write code on servers, you can also make sort of desktop applications like this. This whole program is written in JavaScript using a framework called Electron that we'll probably be getting into much later. But yes, we'll be learning JavaScript using JavaScript, which is pretty neat. So how are we doing on time? Hoping to do 90-minute blocks. We've got about an hour left. Cool. So Visual Studio Code, I would encourage you to get as into as you can. Learn every little nook and cranny. It has a lot of neat tricks. It's got, we're going to get into pretty soon, this extension library. Well, what do we got? Just in the popular section alone, we've got 13,000 packages up here. All stuff that customizes your Visual Studio Code and lets you get it just right for development. And we'll be going through all of those on stream. Not all of the packages, but we'll be installing a lot of this stuff. But for now, click back over to the File tab here. We can see all the files in this directory, including our hello world.html. So let's make a website. HTML documents. We're actually not going to be writing that many HTML documents because we'll be doing it with JavaScript magic later on, but this is a good place to start. At the start of every HTML document, you put this text. Let me make this a little bigger. Okay. Just kidding. You can see it recommended to me already. So HTML is all about tags. First tag we're going to put in that you just have to put in that has nothing to do with anything is this doc type tag. So tags look like this. You have a tag surrounded by greater than or less than signs. These are often called angle brackets. And then you've got a closing tag, open tag and a close tag. So this is a tag named tag. It's not a real tag, but it's an example tag. And then the tag can have other stuff in it, like other tags, lots of stuff. Okay. First one you do is this doc type thing. Doc, exclamation point doc type, lowercase HTML. You got to put it there. Has to do with back in the day, we had to tell web browsers that it was a modern version of HTML and not any one of a bunch of older versions. It doesn't matter. You put doc type HTML. That's the type of doc it is. Whatever. Then you've got your, if we want to put some stuff in here, you got your body tag. Everything that's on the website goes inside the body tag here. Four spaces, yeah. Inside of here, we want to put some more stuff, like the text, hello world, exclamation point. Cool. Go ahead and file save that, or Control S from now on. And let's take a look at our website. I guess we'll probably open it up in files here. So here's code, hello world.html. There it is. We made a website. Cool. Let's make a server. So this is the beginning. This is usually JavaScript boot camps will do, like, you learn a bunch of front-end development about how to make code in a browser here, and then you learn a bunch of back-end development and it's super confusing because it's an entirely different thing. I'm going to try teaching them in parallel, that we're going to learn the server stuff and the client stuff at the same time, which is going to be a lot all at once, but you can handle it. I believe in you. So cool. This is our client. This is a web browser. We've made a very simple website. It doesn't do any things yet, but it's going to do lots of things later on. Let's make a server. So if you remember a few commands ago, we ran touch hello world.html, touch server.js .javascript, making ourselves a server. Switch back over to code here. That's fine. Switch back over to code here. And we've got our server.js. This isn't, no tags, no doc type here. So HTML documents are what the web looks like, but in terms of actual code, we're going to be focusing on JavaScript here. First thing we're going to learn in JavaScript is console.log. Console.log prints out some text. Here's how you do it. You type console. You type dot. You type log. You can see it's the good folks at Microsoft are trying to help me out here. Tell me about this. And you type an open parenthesis. Well, I'm going to get into what all of this means later on, but you see it automatically closed my parenthesis. Then you type a quote, quotation mark. You can use single quotes or double quotes, whatever. Both of them work fine. So, which is to say either this or this, but I like double quotes. Once again, so inside the quote here, we were going to type hello world. Cool. Console.log hello world. Go ahead and Command S to Control S to save that. Now we want to run our server. You'll remember about 100 years ago, we installed a piece of software called Node.js to run servers. So the command that gave us is node, and then server.js to execute it. Hello world. You're a programmer now. Congratulations. Boom. Hello world. Hello world. We can run it all the times that we want. So remember, servers run in the console here. Run on a computer. Run on your computer. Client runs over here. But we want to teach full stack JavaScript development. We want these things to be friends, to come together. So how are we going to do that? Well, we're going to start using other people's code really quickly is what we're going to do. So, and this will get into this other command we did, which is npm, the node package manager. npm -- help. So this has a lot of different commands, but what we care about mostly at this point is this lets us install node packages. That's actually a pretty old version of npm. So we can actually ask npm to upgrade itself, and I think that's the first thing we're going to do. That'll be sudo npm install -g for global. We're going to install it on your whole computer. npm. So we're asking npm to install something, and the thing we're asking it to install is npm itself. Cool. Now if we do npm -- version, oh, it didn't actually upgrade. Okay, we'll deal with being on an old version of npm for now. Not sure what that's about. Okay, we'll figure out how to get that upgraded at some point. So, we would like to make a server now. Specifically, we would like to be able to type in, so we're cheating a little bit here, which is that Firefox will show you files on your computer, but that's not something we care. Well, that can't send that to your mom and have her open this link and see this cool website you made. We want it on the internet. That means the kind of server we want is an HTTP server. Google here is on an HTTPS server, which is the secure version, but we'll be starting out with basic HTTP. Stands for Hypertext Transport Protocol. And it means you gotta send some cool text with links and stuff back and forth. HTTP is used for pretty much everything in the universe. Every time you do anything on social media, you're making HTTP requests to create posts and download other people's and watch videos and whatnot. You've seen it up here. So we're going to make an HTTP server. And in order to do that, there's a framework that pretty much everybody in JavaScript uses called Express. No, not that one. Express, Node.js application framework. You can see it even gave us the little command here, npm install express -- save. Let's not worry about that save quite yet. We'll just do npm install express. Gave us some warnings and stuff, but that's okay. Let's do ls again. And so npm install express gave us a new directory here called node modules. Basically pieces of code that come with Node that we want Node, the JavaScript runtime, to use. What's in there? Here's a new command that is fun. Find is a command that will show you all of the files and subdirectories in a different directory. So let's do find node modules. Oh, wow, holy goodness. Look at all this stuff. Aren't you glad you don't have to write all this yourself? That would be terrible. Instead, we can build on JavaScript code that other people wrote, like JavaScript code to run an HTTP server really well. So let's open our server back up in Visual Studio Code, and we'll start to use other people's code here. So we installed that Express library, and now we would like to utilize it in our code. That in Node happens with a function called require. So I'm going to do a bunch of stuff kind of quickly here, and then I'll go back and go step by step on what it means. But so to start making an HTTP server, what we're going to want is we're going to want to require const express equals require express in quotes. So yes, this is how we want to use code that other people wrote. And so we ask require for it. We say, hey, require, we would like that thing express that I asked for a minute ago. I'm going to go into what const, and we'll get into all this in a second, but I want to just set up our server first. So express lets us define an HTTP application, or app, const app equals express open paren, close paren. Again, I'll get into all of this in a moment. This is how you create a specific, we want to run just one server. This is our HTTP server. Okay. And then we need to handle an HTTP request. Our regular one is called a GET, app.get, in quotes, a slash. So this is, you'll notice there's a slash. Basically, this is the root URL if you don't do slash anything else. Actually, let's do slash something else as an example. If we app-get slash hello world, that's the URL that we're going to set up here. And then this isn't going to make any sense at all, but it will in a moment. Rec res equal sign. So this is an arrow called an arrow function. Open curly braces, close curly braces, hit enter. Okay. And we want to send out, so this is after we receive a request from a web browser to render this hello world page. We want to then send them a little bit of so they've sent us a request, and which we abbreviate as rec, and we're going to send them a response, which we abbreviate as res. Res dot end. So end the response with a little message that says hello again. I'm putting semicolons at the end of all my lines out of habit. You don't have to in JavaScript. It's totally, totally optional. If you're new to the language, you may as well not put them there. Totally optional. Required in a lot of languages, totally optional in JavaScript, but old habits. Let's get rid of our old console log here. And then now we want to have our server listen on a port, which means we're going to make the server accessible to connect to from other places, other computers and whatnot. So that'll be app.listen, open paren, and then we pick a port. Traditional one would be 3000 for a dev server like this, but you can use any number from like 400 to 65,000 or something. But we're going to use 3,000. Cool. This is a server. Go ahead and save that. Control S, and we'll go ahead and run it. Node server.js. Nothing happens, but it's also not exiting because it's sitting there running an HTTP server, which is cool. How do we access it? We remember running on port 3000, and the computer we're on is called localhost, which is to say it's our local computer that we're running on. So you type in a browser here, localhost, localhost, colon 3000. Enter. Cannot get slash, right, because we didn't put it at slash, we put it at slash hello world. So let's type localhost 3000 slash hello dash world. And then it says hello again. Hi. So that was a lot. We've gone, this is if you've never done any programming before, this is a whole lot of things all at once. I'm going to get into a more in-depth intro to JavaScript, but maybe stare at this code for a little bit and learn its great secrets. I'm going to get some water. Green screen's getting totally washed out here. Let's see if I can change my exposure here. Yeah, there we go. Cool. So what the heck did we just do? Computer programming, believe it or not. And in fact, some pretty advanced computer programming. This is, we're using other people's code, a whole bunch of libraries that we just downloaded called Express. We've got this server, HTTP server running. What the heck does any of this mean? We'll get into that, but I don't want to do a full intro to JavaScript today. It's a lot. That'll be a whole session next time, but I want to start to introduce this and start to give you a feel for what this sort of thing looks like. JavaScript code looks like this, but I don't want us to write a lot of JavaScript code yet, or make a lot of websites yet, because we just started getting our development environment set up. And I don't want people make the mistake, I think, a lot of trying to write a bunch of code and we haven't even gotten, there's like 100 other things that we haven't gotten set up quite yet. So, but to talk a little bit more about this, just to start to get a feel for it. So this is, we installed somebody else's code, a package called Express, and we want to make use of it. You're like, what? I guess my my thinking here is, what do we start to see here? Well, we see some colorful text that that does some stuff. We see these parentheses a lot. That sometimes we have an open paren and then a word in there and a closed paren, and sometimes we don't. Sometimes there's nothing there, and here we wanted to send some stuff, and it looks like this stuff's all in quotes. In here, what's that about? This stuff is, but this isn't in a quote. It's green for some reason. We didn't do like quote 3000 or something like that. Yeah, pretty weird, huh? This is all it is. So, you know, obviously we haven't gone into what any of this means yet, but I have solved lots of real world problems with about this much code doing about this much stuff. You just need a little HTTP server that sends some text out for something or responds to requests. This is all it takes. So very, very powerful, wrapped up into just this few lines of code here. We can make websites too. But that's it for new stuff today, which is to say we're going to do a bunch of other new stuff, but let's get the development environment set up just right so we can move forward with confidence. The first thing we're going to do in getting our development environment set up nicely is going to be, let's get rid of this bash nonsense. So, well, first off, we're trapped in our, back on the command line here, we're trapped in our server. Help, how do I escape? Control C, believe it or not. Remember when I said earlier that you can't do copy and pasting the regular way on the terminal? Yeah, that's because Control C has a special meaning on the terminal that actually predates copy paste's existence, probably entirely. Control C. Yeah. Sends an interrupt command to say, hey, server, I know you're there doing your server stuff, but I'd like my terminal back, please. So go ahead and exit. So now if we go back to Firefox and reload this, our server's gone. Okay. First thing that we're going to do, so this is going to be pretty like me opinionated, but I think that out of the box, a lot of these tools aren't super useful for doing development, and there's some easier stuff out there. So to start off, we're going to dump this bash shell thing that we're using. This is what's used by default, and I don't care for it terribly. I've never had a great time with it. I prefer an alternative called Fish, F-I-S-H. And people that are more experienced programmers are rolling their eyes on me right now. I just Googled the word fish. That's not going to accomplish anything. Fish shell. Finally, a command line shell for the 90s is what it is about. So you remember how to install software, right? Sudo apt install. Well, let's search for it first. I'm not sure if it's like fish or fish shell. Search fish. Anything that contains fish shows up here. Yeah, fish, friendly interactive shell. Lovely. Sudo apt install fish. And let's run it. Fish. Welcome to Fish, the friendly interactive shell. What do I like about Fish? Well, if I do something like, let's say I want to run that server again, node server, you see already it's given me a little autocomplete there. So I can just tap the right arrow key and complete the command there because it figured out I was typing the name of a file that's in the current directory. Control C again to get out of there. And now if I start, I'm going to work on the server. I'm going to want to execute it again. I want to start typing node. Oh, hey, look at that. It auto-completed the whole previous command for me. That's pretty nice. Control C. We want to change our default shell to fish, which I think is CHSH. Let's look it up. Well, to list all the shells on your Linux system, type cat/etc/shells. Okay. So to start off, cat. So cat is a very simple program. Cat shows you what is in a file. Cat server.js. Remember that server that we wrote? Yeah, this is what's in that file. Cat server.js. So it's having us look at a specific file to see what shells are available. Cat etc shells. Cool. We can see that fish is one of the options there. It's installed in a directory user bin fish. So we want to change to that. CHSH -s for shell, I think, is how this works, /user bin fish. Type in your password. Cool. Now we've changed our default shell. Let's go ahead and open up a new terminal window to see if that took, and of course it didn't. That we are now Did I do it wrong? Interesting. Okay. Maybe it's a preference in the terminal. Command. This is where I am learning alongside y'all. Let's try closing the terminal. Oh no, yeah, that's fine. Back at bash. What's going on here? Ubuntu CHSH not working. You'll need to log out again for your changes to take effect. The shell defined is your login shell. So you need to log in actually for that. Cool. So when we come back, it'll be changed. For now, let's just run it manually, type fish, and we'll be good from here. Cool. Me opinionated stuff that we're going through here first. I don't care for bash. Let's use fish instead. Hey, let's configure our fish. That's a command. That's fish_config. This one's fun. Cool. It actually pops up here. So feel free to pick whatever colors you might care for. And then on the prompt here, we're going to want, well, we'll look more at this later. Let's try this classic plus VCS here. A whole bunch of stuff in here. Yeah, feel free to play around with the colors or whatever. Close out of this. Control C to get out of here. Cool, got a little bit more colorful there. Another mistake that new programmers often make is not getting the Eli Kode font, which is my favorite code font. So let's get that installed. Eli Kode free font, very nice. So hey, GitHub. GitHub's important. You should make a GitHub account at some point. We'll get to that in a little bit. But GitHub is where all the code is in the world. For now, let's just click this releases box here and download our font. Yeah. Wow. Kickstarter backers. Cool. There's a Eli Kode 2.zip. All right, I guess we've got a folder thing here. Go ahead and extract this to our desktop. Extract. Cool. How to install? What do you recommend for Linux? Windows, Mac, Linux. In the TTF folder, double-click each font file and click Install Font. I can do that. Yeah. Can I do a bunch of them? If I just select this and go, nope. Okay. Installed. Installed. Install. And install. Cool. Now let's change our font to that everywhere. Right click on the terminal, preferences, Search Fira Kode Medium. That sounds good. Very nice. I feel more at home already. And Firefox, Visual Studio Code. Go over and there's a few preferences I want to change here. So you want to go to File, Preferences, Settings. First off, for our font family, it's given us these options. So looks like wrap the font name in single quotes, Fira Kode, and then a comma. So apostrophe Fira Kode, apostrophe comma. Yeah, that looks better. Maybe. Did that change? Fira Kode Medium. Close code. Open code. Yeah, there we go. I really like this font. I think it looks really nice. And it's free. A few other settings that I would like to change here. Yeah, so it knows commonly used. Something that I've seen new folks get stuck on for hours and hours, and I myself have before I turned on this setting, is this autosave here. What I'd recommend is doing a on focus change for the autosave. So this means rather than having to type Control S the whole time, if I wanted to add something to my server, console.log hi. I can just, rather than having to press anything here, as soon as I click away, it'll be saved automatically. And if we go back to code/hello world there, node server JS, there's that hi automatically. Ooh, 130. Cool. Don't know what that's about. I guess that's the exit code of the server there. Interesting. What else? I think those are the most important ones. Another thing we're going to do here, get set up right away, is format on save. Let me search for that. Yeah, so search for format, and then there's a formatter on save here. And then we need a formatter for our code. And the most popular one for JavaScript that I quite care for is called Prettier. So this is going to be an extension that we install in Visual Studio Code here. If you click over to extensions, search for Prettier code formatter. Boop. Great. Go ahead and so I want to trigger a code format here. A really good command to know if you learn nothing else about Visual Studio Code is Control-Shift-P. So this is a command palette that you can trigger anything in the whole application. So rather than finding the menu or looking at documentation to find the key parameter or anything, you can just do Control-Shift-P, and that will open this this right here. and then you can type anything you want. So, you know, if I wanted to select all or something, you know, we could do that from here. But what I'd like to do today is format code, format document, I suppose. So that's selected. Go ahead and hit enter. Yeah, this is why I wanted to trigger this. This will, uh-oh, I'm in the way. Where is my, there it is. Oh, it went away. Oh, we'll try it again now. Control Shift P, format document. There are multiple formatters for JavaScript -files. Okay, go ahead and click configure and click prettier here. Aha. So what'll this do for us? Well, it's really hard to keep code sort of nicely organized. So, you know, maybe I'll forget and I'll put a bunch of spaces here. The way we have it set up now is whenever I save, whenever I press Control S, it'll automatically reformat my code for me. So I don't have to think about manually that this code is inside of some other code and should be indented or whatever. I think it will work here too if we just, if I did something like that and then Command Shift P, format, multiple formatters for HTML files. Okay, yes, go ahead and let's get prettier here as well. You can see now it's got this little checkbox at the bottom where it's telling us everything looks okay. What else? That's close to it. I think I'm going to wrap up this session here. That was a lot of content. We're in a much better, we made a website, we made a server, and we've got a very nice development environment set up. The next thing will be to talk about Git, G-I-T. And that is how we will be installing it. But that Git is probably the most brain melting thing that you're going to encounter. So I wanna address it early, get it thoroughly corralled before we move on to other topics. And we'll be doing that next time. I need an outro. It's Kode Skool. Congratulations. Now you know.